Hey, everybody. Thanks for coming back to Hammer Rugby. And wow, what a finish to week 19 in the regular season. And it's going to be an interesting playoffs. I'm going to break all that down, give you an idea of what I think is going to be happening here in the playoffs and what teams to look out for. Before I do that, I want to give a particular big round of applause to a couple of teams over the last few weeks. One of the big ones, both the men's and the women's Lindenwood Lions, back-to-back, doubled up D1A Sevens titles and CRC Sevens titles. Phenomenal job. Big congrats to women's coach Billy Nicholas and men's coaches Josh Macy and Nick Tyson. Phenomenal job getting it done. The Lions are doing a great job down there in St. Charles, Missouri. And I want to give a particular round of thanks to senior leadership from the men's program. You got your great bunch of seniors, LT, Roddy, Wes White, Duvall, Desi. Awesome job, boys. Way to lead the Lions, setting the tone for the future boys as they continue to develop that program and make it continue to be a powerhouse. I also want to throw out there big congrats to the USA Men's Sevens program. This came a little bit short of being the champs. They got second in the Sevens series, but they did qualify for the Olympics. They are putting USA Rugby on the map, making them a force to be reckoned with. Congrats, boys. Way to go. Job well done. So stick around. I'm going to break all the Week 19 down and crescendo into what should be a phenomenal playoff season and end to the 2019 Major League Rugby season. Here are the results from last week. A couple of key matchups that set the table for this week. Toronto and Rooney and San Diego and NOLA. Both of those have determined not only who's going to host, but who has made the playoffs. And then here's the table. San Diego on top, Seattle, Toronto, New York following successfully. So San Diego and Seattle host this weekend's matches. And San Diego plays host to New York at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and Seattle plays host to Toronto. And here's Shane Skinner quickly looking for a venue. Turns out it's going to be at Starfire. Good luck, fellas. Here are the 4 2019 playoff teams. I'm going to break down each one of these teams and what the keys to success are going to be for each of them. Start off with top of the table winner, San Diego. What are the keys to success for San Diego? Number one, good support lines. Look for offloads. They did a great job of this against NOLA. I think it's one of the differences between the two teams. When opportunities presented themselves, San Diego offloaded well. Defensive line speed, phenomenal line speed out of the backs, putting a lot of pressure on the opposition offense, and that's important to disrupt the offensive ball. Also, they use their defensive line speed to generate scoring opportunities on 2 occasions. One, they got a pick 5, and the other one, they darn near got one, and the ball was bobbled a little bit at the end. Nevertheless, it really did a nice job. Those efforts did a nice job at disrupting the opposition offense. The last key is slowing down opponent ball at the breakdown. JP Duplessis was phenomenal at this. But in addition, I think they do a lot of things to really slow down the ball, getting in the way. The scrum half really holding up the opposition ball, holding up players at that breakdown, and it really disrupts, once again, the offensive flow. Seattle, what are their keys to success? They want quick ball. Phil Mack is the key to that. It's why I think they had the lineup they did this weekend, which I'll touch upon. The Seattle Seawall, when they play well, it's because of defense, and they use their defense as a springboard for offense to counterattack. So look for a good, strong Seattle Seawall, straight defensive lines, and no missed tackles. Finally, lineup and super subs. Notice in this last matchup against Austin, they had Phil Mack in there at 9. They played J.P. Smith at 10, and then they put Ben Sema back at 15. And I believe they think that and believe that, and I agree, that Sema and Smith are very good with the ball in their foot, and therefore they like to use that to put pressure on the opposition. And Phil Mack, of course, is an absolute general out there at the base of the ruck and scrum. And finally, Toronto, they need to stick to their pattern of play. Their pattern of play is a 1-3-3-1. They do this extremely well and to a lot of success. I also think they had a very strong scrum last weekend, and they need to continue to do that as they're really going to have to use that to wear down their opposition this week. And then finally, use the boot to put pressure on the opposition and make their opposition play out of their half or from behind their 22. So those are going to be some keys. So let's see how this plays out. So what about Rooney? They need to run the forwards on a wide channel attack. They did this very well against Toronto to a lot of success. They don't run a tight line. They run a little wider line. Why? It forces opposition backs into the contact area. And therefore, it really creates a mismatches they're looking for when they go wide. So oftentimes then they counter that and use a little variation, and they use centers to crash and make line breaks. And finally, of course, this is their bread and butter all season, rolling maul. They get an opportunity to kick into the corner, and they go with that maul. Dylan Fawcett at the back does a great job. They draw on the defense, and then they create that wide option if needed. But more often than not, they just run one of their strong forwards off the back, and usually it's their number 2, Fawcett. And then last week, when they created the wide option, they had 2 great scoring opportunities and simply knocked the ball on. So I think a key is to keep the ball in hand there. Try not to do too much.